Hi, I'm Chris. After suffering from MECFS for 6 years, I've fully recovered. I created this healing program to guide and support you on your healing journey from MECFS, fibromyalgia, long COVID, and related syndromes. If you haven't watched the previous videos in this series, I recommend starting from the beginning, as each video builds on the last. You can find them for free on my website at healing-space.online. In the previous video, we discussed how chronic stress is the root cause of conditions like MECFS, fibromyalgia, and long COVID. We discussed that by stress, we don't just refer to the big, obvious sources of stress, such as tough jobs, strained relationships, financial and time pressures. We are primarily referring to the subtle, often unnoticed stressors that come from being perfectionistic, achievement-oriented, controlling, impatient, worried, self-critical, or prone to overthinking. These smaller, everyday stressors can build up over time and have a significant impact on our health. Before we start with this lesson, it's important to understand that stress doesn't just happen. Stress is the result of several interacting factors. To uncover how stress develops, we'll use an adapted version of Jon Kabat-Zinn's stress reaction cycle. This framework illustrates that stress arises from the interplay of our genetics, our conditioning, the stressors we face in everyday life, and our automatic reactions to those stressors. The complex interplay of these factors determines how much stress we experience. We tend to think that stress just happens to us, but that isn't entirely true. This framework shows that stress is actually the result of various interconnected factors. This framework applies to all human beings, whether we suffer from a chronic illness or not. Stress is a natural part of life, and we will all have to deal with it. While we often think of stress as something negative, that's not always the case. From an evolutionary perspective, stress helps us overcome challenges, adapt to changes, and make progress. As long as we can adapt to and manage our stress load, our system remains in balance and our body functions normally. However, when stress becomes chronic and overwhelming, it can become problematic and lead to stress-related syndromes such as MECFS, fibromyalgia, and long COVID. Now, let's go through all of these factors in more detail, as understanding them is essential to making sense of and recognizing stress. Our genetics have a big impact on how we deal with stress. They affect how sensitive we are to stress, how we react to stressful situations, and how quickly we recover. In other words, our genes have a significant impact on how we experience and manage stress. However, genetics alone do not cause MECFS, fibromyalgia, and long COVID. No specific genetic marker has been identified as a direct cause. Instead, genetics is one of several factors that can make us more susceptible to these conditions. Another factor that influences how much stress we feel is our conditioning. Conditioning refers to how our past experiences shape the way we interact with ourselves, others, and the world around us. It influences how we think, feel, and behave, often without us realizing it. Our conditioning includes our personality traits, our beliefs and assumptions, our behavior patterns, our thought processes, our emotional responses, and so on. For example, let's say someone grew up in a household where they were constantly told that they must always be perfect. Over time, this person may have developed a belief that they need to be flawless in everything they do. As a result, in their adult life, they may experience anxiety and stress when they make a small mistake at work or feel that they haven't done something perfectly. This stress-inducing automatic reaction is a result of their conditioning. This conditioning often operates automatically without our conscious awareness and can be a significant source of stress. In fact, research suggests that people who later develop MECFS, fibromyalgia, or long COVID are often conditioned in a way that increases stress even before they get sick. These habitual patterns of thinking, feeling, and behaving are learned over time and can amplify stress. It's important to understand that this is not your fault. It's simply the way you were conditioned. The good news is that we can change these patterns by applying mindfulness, which we will learn later in this program. What's important to understand is that our conditioning can shape and influence our internal stressors as well as our automatic reactions to things that are happening in our life. Because stressors are another important factor that determines how much stress we feel, we will now take a closer look at them. What is a stressor? A stressor is anything that causes us to feel stressed. It can be an event, situation, or demand that we perceive as challenging, threatening, or emotionally charged. Stressors can be external or internal. External triggers are triggers that come from the outside, such as tight deadlines at work, a traffic jam, or a difficult conversation. Internal stressors, on the other hand, are triggers that originate within us, such as our thoughts, emotions, and body sensations. For instance, worrying about the future, feeling anxious, or experiencing pain or tension in the body. Of course, internal and external stressors can't be clearly separated because they are interconnected and influence each other. So whatever happens on the outside of us influences our thoughts, emotions, and physical sensations, and vice versa. Our internal state affects how we perceive and react to external situations and events. And finally, our automatic reactions play another important factor when it comes to stress. In fact, as we will see later, it is the single most significant factor in determining how much stress we experience. Therefore, in my opinion, becoming aware of our automatic reactions and replacing them with mindful responding is the single most effective way to reduce stress, break the vicious stress cycle we are stuck in, and move towards healing from our conditions. But what are automatic reactions? Automatic reactions are the way we react to situations or stressors without even realizing it. They're called automatic because they happen quickly, out of habit, and without conscious awareness. And these ways of reacting to stressors are also shaped by our conditioning. In other words, we have learned to react to situations or events in certain ways. For example, if someone criticizes us, we might automatically feel hurt or defensive without pausing to consider the situation. This quick and automatic reaction can increase stress without us even being aware of it. We often think that stress comes directly from the stressors themselves, like a work deadline, conflict, or challenging situation. However, it's our interpretation and reaction to these stressors that truly determine the intensity and duration of the stress we feel. In other words, the way we automatically react to stressors plays a major role in how much stress we experience. But here's the thing. Automatic reactions can either help us manage stress or make it worse. They can be helpful and alleviate stress, or they can be harmful and intensify stress. We can think of automatic reactions as a lens through which we perceive, interpret, and react to things that are happening in our life. According to Stephen Covey, 10% of life is made up of what happens to us, and 90% of life is decided by how we react to it. Applied to stress, this means that 10% of stress that we experience comes from the stressors, and 90% of stress comes from our reaction to that stressor. This demonstrates clearly why our reaction to what is happening in our life is so important. That is why becoming aware of these automatic reactions and replacing them with skillful responses will be of central importance in this healing program, because this is where we can reduce stress, break the vicious cycle we are stuck in, and move towards healing most effectively. Now that we understand that the amount of stress we feel largely depends on how we react to things that are happening in our life, we want to illustrate this using some examples. Imagine giving a presentation and making a mistake in front of the audience. In this example, making a mistake while giving the presentation is the stressor. Person A might automatically react to this stressor by thinking, I must be perfect, and making a mistake means I'm a failure. This results in a lot of stress. Person B, on the other hand, might think, mistakes happen, and it's an opportunity to learn and improve. This results in less stress. Can you see how the different ways of reacting have a significant impact on how much stress we are experiencing? We have exactly the same stressor, such as making a mistake at the presentation, but depending on how we think, feel, and behave about this, we feel very different levels of stress. So we have the same stressor, but different reactions to it. It is our reaction to a stressor that greatly determines the level of stress we experience. Another example is being stuck in a traffic jam. Person A might become frustrated and angry, thinking about all the time being wasted and how it will ruin his or her day. This results in a high stress level. Person B, on the other hand, sees it as a chance to listen to a favorite podcast or music, using the time to relax and enjoy the moment. This results in a low stress level. We can also use an example of being ill with MECFS, fibromyalgia, or long COVID and experiencing ongoing heavy fatigue. Person A might think, I hate this fatigue. Why is this happening to me? Will this ever get better? I didn't do much yesterday and yet I feel terrible. Even though this way of reacting is understandable, it nevertheless increases our stress. The one thing we try to reduce. Person B, on the other hand, might think, this fatigue is difficult, but instead of resisting and fighting it, I am practicing to allow it to be here. I try to be as kind and patient to my body as I can right now. Because obviously it needs rest. This way of reacting creates far less stress. Can you see from these examples how different people react differently to the same stressor and therefore experience different levels of stress? The key insight here is that the exact same stressor can be stressful for one person while not being stressful for another person, depending on how we react to it. In other words, the way we react to stressors has a significant impact on how much stress we experience. The good news is that through mindfulness, we can learn to change the way we react to things that are happening in our life. So we can change the way we react to everyday stressors, our symptoms and illness. Even though our ingrained automatic reactions often happen quickly and without our conscious awareness, mindfulness is a tool that helps us to become aware of them, giving ourselves a pause, and then choose how we want to respond to any stressors. This is what reduces stress and moves us from a constantly stressed state into a relaxed and calm state. This is where healing is happening. That is why later in this program we will very much focus on understanding and applying mindfulness. In summary, in this lesson we learned that stress is the result of the interplay of various factors such as genetics, conditioning, stressors, and automatic reactions. While this applies to everyone, it's the unique combination of these factors that determine whether someone experiences stress-related conditions like MECFS, fibromyalgia, or long COVID. Because our genetics and conditioning are fixed and beyond our control, we want to dive deeper into understanding stressors and our automatic reactions to them. This is why in the next 2 videos we will explore the various types of stressors and our automatic reactions to them. While some of us might believe that stressors are the most crucial factor in determining how much stress we feel, we will discover that ultimately it is our automatic reactions to stressors that determine significantly how much stress we experience. The good news is that our automatic reactions to a stressor is not only the most crucial factor in determining how much stress we feel, but also the area where we have the most power to create change. If you'd like to continue, you can watch the complete introductory video series for free on my website at healing-space.online. This video series is designed to support you in healing from MECFS, fibromyalgia, long COVID, and related syndromes. If you found this video helpful, please like, share, and follow. Thank you, and see you in the next video.